So today the House voted on H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446, as well as Dianne Feinstein introduced a federal assault weapons ban. Let's talk about this. But real quick, before we jump into the video, if you think that the federal government needs to stop trying to infringe on our Second Amendment rights, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of the main sponsors of the channel, the first being AceLink Armor. AceLink Armor has bundles like this for high quality plate carriers, high quality plates. These are level 4 ceramic plates. They are out of the state of California. Top tier company, so if you're looking for something high quality, good value, check them out. I'll put a link to them down in the details section, and if you use the code ARMSCHOLAR, you'll get 10% off of your order. I also want to thank USCCA. USCCA, through their membership, gives you training and education, as well as you get self-defense liability protection. So again, if you carry a weapon, you should look into some sort of carry protection, and I'll put a link to them down in the details section. So first, let's talk about H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446, which had votes today, and both of them did pass. H.R. 8 deals with universal background checks, requiring background checks for all firearms transactions and sales. And then H.R. 1446 seeks to extend out the NICS requirement from a 3-day to 10-day to potentially indefinite, depending on whether or not the FBI gets back to you. These pieces of legislation are gun control. They were called for by Joe Biden in February. He called for Congress to be aggressive on a list of items, one of those being universal background checks. And so Congress quickly swept up and did it through H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446. So today we had the votes on these. We were pretty sure that these would pass, but I wanted to give you guys the numbers on the votes in the House. So for H.R. 8, it passed the House with a vote of 227 to 203. 8 Republicans voted in favor of passing H.R. 8. Those are Buchanan from Florida, Upton from Michigan, Smith from New Jersey, Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, Garbanio from New York, Jimenez from Florida, Zinzinger from Illinois, and Salazar from Florida. One Democrat voted against passing H.R. 8, and that was Golden from Maine. So H.R. 8, which deals with the universal background checks, was passed today in the House and will be moving on to the Senate. H.R. 1446 also had a vote today, and it passed as well. The vote went 218 in favor versus 210 against. 2 Republicans voted in favor of passing H.R. 1446. Those 2 Republicans are Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania and Smith from New Jersey. 2 Democrats voted against H.R. 1446, being Golden from Maine and Kind from Wisconsin. Now, also, if you were watching along with H.R. 1446, there was also an attempt to amend and add in some language to 1446 for national carry reciprocity. And a lot of people are asking me, why would they try to amend that in? And that is pretty much to kill it in the Senate, because if you add in some sort of pro-2A legislation into it, some pro-2A language, then it would be very much unlikely that Democrats in the Senate would vote in favor of that bill, because then it would open the door for national reciprocity. So they were trying to amend it to potentially kill that bill even more when it got to the Senate. That amendment didn't pass. And so in the true form, H.R. 1446 passed, so without any amendments or any national carry reciprocity. So as far as what happens now with H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446, those 2 bills will now go on to the Senate for a vote. Right here, I want to mention that it's very important that you guys reach out to Joe Manchin out of West Virginia. He is a senator, he is a Democrat, but what he has stated is that he will not vote in favor of getting rid of the filibuster in the Senate, which is really important. Right now, we need the filibuster to stop any of these anti-gun legislations from passing in the Senate. And right now, you would need everybody to vote according to party lines, being a 50-50 split, and then Harris to break that split. But with Manchin saying that he will not vote according to party lines and that he will stand strong in not voting in favor of getting rid of the filibuster, that bodes very well for us. And we need to keep that filibuster to prevent these things. So it's really important that we get out, reach out to Joe Manchin, say that, hey, us here, conservatives, whatever you line with politically, being pro-2A, you agree with him standing firm in keeping the filibuster so that things like H.R. 8, H.R. 1446, as well as the assault weapons ban that we're going to talk about right now, don't get passed once they make it to the Senate. So now let's talk about the assault weapons ban that Feinstein has introduced today. And this is coming off of the heels of H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446 being passed by the House. Feinstein signaled a couple weeks ago that she would reintroduce some form of an assault weapons ban, and she has done that today. I guess since they had some sort of victory in the House, I guess you could say she thought it was the time to reintroduce this assault weapons ban. So let's talk about what she said. I'm going to read from her website, and also I'm going to put a link down the details section to this bill if you want to read it for yourself. I'm going to talk about some key points, and maybe in a later video, I will go much more comprehensively through all of this. But It's very similar to other things that have been introduced in the past. So what her website says is that Senator Dianne Feinstein, along with Congressman David Cicilline, today introduced the assault weapons ban, an updated bill to ban the sale, transfer, manufacture, and importation of military-style assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition magazines like were used in the massacre in Dayton, Ohio, where the shooter had a 100-round magazine attached to an assault rifle. Some of the key provisions that she's put on her website, and also when I was going through that, I'll add a couple that I thought were important as well. Bans the sale, manufacture, transfer, and importation of 205 military-style assault weapons by name. This is very similar to what California had originally done with the Roberti Roos list, where they actually pinpoint specific types of firearms that they consider to be assault weapons. So it's actually a list of make and models of weapons that they are targeting, but they go even beyond that, like California has done as well. It then states that it bans any assault weapon with a capacity to utilize a magazine that is not a fixed ammunition magazine and has one or more military characteristics, including a pistol grip, a forward grip, a barrel shroud, a threaded barrel, or a folding or telescoping stock. So this is almost identical to what we have here in the state of California and what a lot of people have made fun of California for with our featureless rifles, where people have had to configure their rifles in specific ways because the state of California has said, hey, if you have a detachable magazine with these types of characteristics, we are going to consider it to be an assault weapon. Through this bill, Feinstein is saying that they're going to institute the same thing across a federal level. If you have a detachable magazine on, say, an AR-15 and you have a pistol grip, it's an assault weapon. If you have a detachable magazine and it has a collapsible or telescoping stock, it's an assault weapon. If you have a forward pistol grip, it's an assault weapon. It then goes on to say that it bans magazines and other ammunition feeding devices that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition, which allows shooters to quickly fire many rounds without needing to reload. Again, similar to what we have in the state of California, here they're going to try to introduce at a federal level a ban on so-called large capacity magazines, being any magazine that has more than 10 rounds is going to be banned. To go even further, they say that they're going to require background checks on the sale, transfer, gifting, all of that of any type of assault weapon that is defined under this bill. Meaning that even though they're going to have some grandfathering provisions in this, which we're going to talk about right now, even though they're going to have grandfathering provisions, they are still going to require background checks for the transfer and gifting and sale of those items. Now, you just heard me say that they're going to have grandfathering provisions. The reason why they're doing that is because they're going to try to soften the blow like they did with the original 1994 federal ban and get people to say, well, it's not that bad, also good to keep the rifles I already have. But again, it's an infringement on our Second Amendment rights, and it doesn't matter if they're grandfathering things in. You got to think about the next generations. You got to think about in the future, you wanting to acquire something you don't have right now. This is still going to be a blanket ban, and then they're going to try to actually track all future sales of existing types of rifles. They're also going to grandfather in currently held standard magazines that have more than 10 rounds, but they are not going to allow the sale or transfer of those grandfathered magazines. Also, at the bottom of this bill, they even have a buyback provision where they're going to allocate grants to where if people want to sell magazines back to the government that hold more than 10 rounds or these so-called dangerous rifles back to the government, they're going to allow for a buyback and they're going to allocate grants and monies from the federal government for those buybacks. And they also even say they're going to exempt a bunch of hunting rifles and hunting firearms again to, I guess, try to cater to those more casual individuals who own firearms, who only care about hunting. They're going to say, well, we're exempting all those firearms that you guys like, and we're only going to target all these scary ones over here. So again, I think they're trying to soften the blow and try to kind of fracture the two-way community, the gun community, by saying, hey, people who like to hunt, you're taken care of. You don't have to worry about this ban. But everybody else who likes the sporting rifles, who likes, air style rifles, AK style rifles, you're pretty much going to be barred from acquiring any new rifles, and you're only going to be left to having those rifles that you had at the time that this actually was instituted. So we need to get active now before this gains any more traction. There's already a ton of co-sponsors, Democratic senators who are attaching themselves to this bill. Who knows if it'll gain traction, but like I also said, this is why even more so that the filibuster is really important and that we need to reach out to Joe Manchin out of West Virginia, because he is kind of that Democrat. Even though he is a Democrat, he is standing in the way of getting rid of the filibuster, which we really need right now to prevent these types of 2A infringements. Trust me, these bills are horrible, and for all of you guys who make fun of California, these are the types of bills federally that will make the U.S. California. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. Also, if you guys like this video, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell because that helps the channel analytics, helps us spread the word about the Second Amendment, also spread the word about two-way infringements like this that are going on in the US. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.